We'll start this.
Today on Logliners, we're going to break a whole new movie called
Wrestling is Real.
Wrestling is Real is a story that Kyle has been working on for a really, really long time. How long have we been working on Wrestling is Real?
Kyle wrote one page 6 years ago,
yeah. 6
failed,
years.
and then I wrote his movie for him. He's very
and then
smart.
I rewrote that same
Yes,
movie,
you did.
but a really, really bad version of it. And I think I got to page like 20, like every script I've
No, I
ever
think
done.
like 40.
40. Okay, that's where I failed.
Like 70.
So Wrestling is Real is
Then we really did it anyway.
Wrestling is Real is I would say a broad comedy set in the world of professional wrestling. Just think WWE.
Yeah, like WWE.
This would be a movie similar to, say, Dodgeball, or any of the Will Ferrell sports movies, really.
Blades of Glory,
yep.
Dodgeball, Semi-Pro.
Kinda,
Let's be, yeah. It's more towards the Blades of Glory, I would say, actually.
And more like Dodgeball, really.
And-
like
and-
in
and-
all aspects.
Yeah.
Straight up Dodgeball ripoff.
Yeah.
But Dodgeball's
No, I
amazing.
think we have another
Wrestling.
movie that's a Dodgeball riff-off. This one is
Derivative.
similar, yeah.
So let's do the log line. What's the log line of this movie?
Okay, the logline is on the verge of wrestling becoming canceled. Galactic Wrestling Federation security guard Marty is thrown into the ring with his childhood hero Chet Fury. After wrestling ratings are on the rise, Marty and Chet must team up to stop Chet's old partner, Stiller, who's actually Dustin, who is the Overlord, from changing wrestling forever.
Okay, so the main characters, we've got Marty, the Golden Boy. We've got Chet Fury. And we're thinking, so let's just go with what our current casting ideas are so people can get a vision.
Absolutely.
So Marty would be...
So we were thinking Channing Tatum, but age-wise, it might not work. The guy that plays in the new show, I think he played Who Drew the Dicks, and he played in the... What was that? Who made that? It was Netflix, in association with...
I'm drawing
Wow.
a blank. I know.
Just
you know
American Vandal.
Yeah,
American Vandal.
I believe he was in that. I'm going to look it up right now.
Like the main guy in American Vandal.
I believe he is the main guy, right? If I'm not mistaken.
We're really selling this guy on wanting to do this movie.
I think this is the guy I'm thinking of. Yep.
Oh, I fucking love that guy.
Yeah, he's
What
in a new
is
show
his
called Home
name,
Economics
though?
as well.
He's in something. He's so funny. What is he in?
What's his name?
Let me look at his IMDb.
Yeah, of course.
He's
22
hilarious
Jump
in 22 Jump Street. Yeah. But there's
the
something
dude's
that I
funny.
feel like he has a bigger part. Let me see. Oh my God. The Real Bros. Yeah, the Real Bros
Yes,
of Simi Valley.
yes,
He's so funny.
Oh,
in
I'm
that.
surprised you know that one. Yeah,
That-
it's
I just
kind
see
of a,
clips because Luke, our producer, shows me clips of that all the time.
Oh
and
yeah,
literally,
he's
like,
hilarious in that.
one of my favorite clips of all time, Luke shows me all the time, is the one that's like where he's like in a fight because the baby has been hanging out with his best friend. His best friend has a
Yes.
baby, and it's
Yep.
like, dude, it's so
I know
funny.
exactly what you're talking about.
Okay,
I, actually,
that guy's
I just
great.
see a lot of clips from the show.
Yeah.
He's very
okay,
funny.
Jimmy Tatro, is that how you say it?
I guess so. We'll say Jimmy Tatro.
So
yeah.
Jimmy Tatro is the Golden Boy, Marty. And he is going to be teaming up with a really old wrestler. I guess think like in real life you would think like Ric Flair, and the other one, who would you compare it to?
Who would you compare?
Golden
Dustin
Boy. Would be like
Golden Boy.
like
would
when
be,
John Cena was on the come up.
Yeah,
John Cena was on the
same,
come
or
up.
like
That's
Okay,
perfect.
so like
Rock, not
okay,
even-
Any
when
of
the
the-
Rock
any
was
of
a
the big-
low,
so
not
on the
even
come
like-
up guy
Yeah.
for wrestling. Chet Fury, are we thinking Will Ferrell?
I'm thinking Will Ferrell.
Yeah, we're
Okay,
thinking Will Ferrell.
Chet Fury, which is wonderful. And we have a villain. Obviously, we called him Stiller, so that's a dead giveaway there. But Dustin, right?
Dustin is his name, but his wrestling name is Overlord.
Overlord.
So he's very obviously pompous, and you will learn quickly that his name does not match his wrestling style, as he's never tagged in by Will Ferrell.
He's never tagged in. Okay.
So the big thing about the log line, actually, I think we might have one thing that might be a little confusing here. So what we do when we break down a log line is we actually have a little cheat sheet for our log line, which brings you throughout the whole arc of the story. So you need to show that there's a villain. Even if the villain is not just it could be the character itself. It can be other
Right.
things other than a person. We want to show every big part of the movie in that so people understand what they're going to see, and they also want to see the journey. We don't want to what's called hiding the ball, which is kind of leave things out. We could have easily left things out like the fact that wrestling is not doing well. The wrestling ratings are on the rise but we might have to change that in there because it's actually wrestling is in a weird state, as you know in the beginning, becoming canceled. So we always start with on the verge of, which we should find a few different some different wording.
Yeah.
So that doesn't always start with on the verge of, but you want to know that there is a goal to be met and there is a problem that is happening.
And there's a reason this story is happening right now.
Yep. And you want someone that doesn't seem like they would be thrown into this new world, which is why we made him a security guard, Marty, and he's thrown into this new world with his childhood hero, so it's a perfect matchup because he likes wrestling. And yeah, it kind of engulfs you into the story within 1 or 2 sentences. That's generally what we try to do.
So this feels like it's basically, we could kind of lump it in with like buddy comedy.
It's definitely buddy comedy.
Sports comedy.
Sport buddy comedy. That's
Okay.
exactly it.
So let's go through the story as we have it now. 6 years ago, this was something completely different, but I know you guys have been breaking this story more recently. And I think you guys used the Blake Snyder beat sheet to kind of... So we typically use the Blake Snyder beat sheet just because it makes writing so much simpler. We know there's tons of different ways to go about it, and people have a lot of opinions on how you should write a screenplay or whatever. We don't really care. We just, this has been the easiest way for us. It makes the most sense. And you can kind of see the patterns. And if you kind of look back, Blake Snyder's is derivative of Aristotle's, which is just basically like, here's the poetics, like here's how you tell good drama. So typically we'll go through those beats and we'll kind of explain those as we go.
You got it. So the first thing we're going to start with is opening image. What I did here is, this is actually a lengthier beat sheet that we still need to fill in. We have some holes in it, but the bold part that you're going to see, and what I'm going to say, because you're probably listening to this, not watching this, is kind of the headline for the beat. So we kind of understand. We kind of failed at this sometimes. We're working on that other script called Darwinism, and it's a good reference to have of what the scene is, because once you start writing 8 pages of scenes, you start getting confused which scene does what. A lot of times we'll use index cards so you can kind of see these scenes and you can start flipping them around, making them work specifically in the middle of the movie, where you can kind of have the scenes be mismatched just so it flows with different characters into different scenes.
And sometimes
it's
a sequence. It's not even. It's like a bunch of scenes that tell the audience one thing.
Yep. Okay, so we're going to start with the setup. So it's 1992 WrestleMania. The stadium is packed as Brody takes his son Marty through the crowd as everyone finds their seats. Brody is Marty's father. Marty points out, and he's terrible, by the way, so you're just going to immediately know that from like his mannerisms. Marty points out Chet Fury t-shirt as they approach a merch stand. Brody tells him that they will have to wait until the match is over, but Brody eyes up the merch girl and winks at her, so he's like a dog. Marty asks why mom doesn't like wrestling, and Brody explains that is why they got divorced. Your mom just doesn't understand wrestling, man. Marty says he thought it was...
That's why we got divorced, because she doesn't understand wrestling.
Definitely thinking like Chris Elliott as the older Brody, so I definitely want him to have that kind of like deadpan type, like don't give a shit. Marty says he thought... Marty's very in tune with like everything. He's very adult for how young he is. I want to say he's probably between 8 and 12 at this point. Marty says he thought it was because he cheated on her, and he responds, and Brody's just like, that's what wrestling's all about, kid. That's part of wrestling.
It's just part of wrestling.
Brody says, his father says he's going to be the next big wrestler, way bigger than Chet Fury, as they approach their front row tickets.
So Marty's dad is an amateur wrestler?
Yeah, Marty's dad is not an amateur wrestler. He does nothing. So I actually say that in the next thing. He's terrible, but he thinks for some reason he's going
to be bigger. I got you. He's just one of those talkers.
Yeah, like us with screenwriting.
Yep, that's it. That's it. He has a podcast about it, probably.
He has a podcast about wrestling. Yeah. He's watched a wrestling match. The thing is, I couldn't be with your mom because wrestling is really something you do alone. So this is a little plant that I have here. And you can't trust anyone. You can't have anyone around if you want to be the best wrestler. He's basically like, that's why I'm a lone wolf.
You got to be a lone wolf.
That's what you got to be.
Mm-hmm.
Brody looks back up the road to see the merch girl waiting for the match to start. The lights go out and the announcement begins. And the merch girl kind of eyes him up, and he sees her, and he's like, "Yeah, like she's got the hots for me." And he leaves his son there as Chet Fury's music comes on. He's like, "Hey, I'm just gonna use the bathroom really quickly." So the theme is really that family can be found through wrestling. I think I want to make that a little bit more prevalent in the scene because obviously it's the opposite of that, but that also can. Coincide with the theme.
Yeah.
He basically says you need to be alone, and the truth is you don't need to be. But
it's the opposite.
but-
It's the experience of wrestling. I think from
Yeah.
that one time that I went to something. Yeah.
and wrestling is real is almost a play on that. A lot of people say wrestling is fake, and people say wrestling is real. The truth is wrestling is a real community and it's real family. That's what we're kind of going for rather than the physicality of it. I think
Yep.
because everyone knows it's theater fighting, which is amazing. It's entertainment. And I've watched wrestling a lot when I was a kid, and I know David Arquette had his falling out with just a little bit of research of what we did here. You Can't Kill David Arquette is a new documentary he did about him trying to get back into wrestling, and it's him trying to be like, why didn't they accept me? Because he actually really does love wrestling, and it's always been a fascinating community for me, like a subculture. So that was one thing that I wanted to play through here because that's how they treat it, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that resonates with them well when this is never made.
And they never listen to this as well. Got it.
Yep. So the top of this, so what I just explained, I always put at the scene or heading, one sentence or two sentences that I know like what the scene's about. So that scene was Brody and Marty are at the stadium and Brody leaves. So you know Brody is a piece of trash. Marty's there waiting for the match.
Mm-hmm.
So Chet Fury and Dustin walk into the ring. This is Will Ferrell and Ben Stiller. And Ben Stiller is dressed to the nines, ridiculous outfit that you can't wrestle in.
Overlord.
And Fury's kind of in a classy, like little flares
Ric
on the
Flair.
yeah.
Woo!
And they walk into the ring. We actually found a great song that I think his name's Jim Johnston made. That's like, "You're a real man's man." That is an actual WWE song. The guy makes a ton of really great classic intro songs.
Luke can throw that in right there.
Oh, it's too good. So just think of that, and it's Will Ferrell, but it's de-aged Will Ferrell. So he's fucking.
Oh, you like
he's
Marty
ripped.
Scorsese'd.
Yeah,
Like, I
yeah,
got you.
he's ripped. He he looks great. And that's obviously a plan for later.
Yep.
So they walk into the ring. Chet Fury and Dustin face off against the Warrior Bros, Beast and Eagle. Chet refuses to tag in Dustin, who he's never tagged in. So this actually starts with they're in the ring, and I came up with the scene pretty recently. I had to write it in here, but they're in the ring and they're kind of looking around, and they come from under the ring, the opponents, and it's Marty who's part of the crowd. This is a great wrestling, like where the crowd really gets involved. And Marty's like, "Look behind you, look behind you." And Fury hears him, and they start fighting Warrior Bros, Beast and Eagle. So that's how the match starts. And Marty's already like, "I feel like I'm in this match." So Chet throws Beast out of the ring into near the stands, and Marty's right next to the action. And he asks Marty for his chair to knock out Beast. Marty gives him the chair, and he knocks Beast out and gives it back to Marty. And Marty's holding it like, "Whoa." And then Chet throws his opponent into the stands, into Marty's face as he's holding the chair, and this kid just gets smashed down.
Marty gets crushed.
And Marty just like, they pull the chair off of Marty and they pull everybody off. And Marty's just happier than ever.
Like missing a tooth, like
Yeah.
face bleeding.
He's fucked up, but he's just like, that was the most amazing
Yeah.
thing. And Chet Fury breaks his neck, but still manages to win the fight. And they're just like, everyone's worried, like, oh my God, Chet Fury's fucked up. So, that scene is Marty gets chair and Chet breaks his neck. Those are the two big takeaways from that. Marty's chair, the reason why I put that in there and why it's important is it's a plant. So the plant will have a ton of payoffs during the movie. This is his, like, if you've seen Up, the grape soda pen, you know, that one thing that's always going to be brought back up. He has an emotional attachment to it.
Plants and payoffs are what we try to do, I think, writing a movie. Plants, payoffs, and reversals. So early in the movie, you're trying to plant. You know, there's a certain point in the movie you got to stop planting stuff and start paying it off. But
Absolutely,
that's exactly what it
and
sounds like.
sometimes those plants are just always existing with the person, and you kind of always get glimpses of them. But then there's always a payoff emotionally, usually, of what that means to that person. So the next scene is Marty is getting the match is over. Everyone's leaving. He's in the parking lot. Marty's sitting on his chair. The dad left. Marty is picked up by his mom. He's sad that his dad left.
He literally left him there.
Just left him there. He tells her how. So she's just like, she shows up. And he's like, Dad left again. And she gets out of her car and she's like, hey, it's okay. And she's like, what happened to your face? And then he gets like really excited. He's just like, you should have seen it. Chef Fury yelled, Chet, look behind you. He looked behind him and boom, he smashed. And he's like all like jazzed about this. Like, and I gave him my chair and he smashed it. And then he gets super down on himself again. And he's like, Dad wasn't there to see any of it. Mom has been divorced for him probably for a while. She knows how shitty he is. And says that she's going to start going to the matches with him. And she calls him her golden boy, which is another plant that we'll see later. Marty sits there with, while his mom's embracing him.
You're my golden boy. Cut to.
Yep. Cut to that same kind of shot of him in the chair with his mom, but now he is in a locker room, like a grimy locker room, sitting on the same chair in kind of a shitty wrestling outfit.
Was it like 15 years later or something? Or
That's a great question. I want to say it's between 15 and 25 would be max. Probably 15 to 20 if we're saying.
Say he's 10 years old. You don't want him, like you want him to be
between
25 to 35.
25 to 35.
Okay.
Yeah. So present-day Marty sits in the same chair in a busy locker room of wrestlers. Also, I want to just say that Brody, I forgot to tell you that one thing, that when Brody is taking Marty down to the front row seats, after he just said he's going to be just as big, he explains to him that, like, hey, buddy, he's like, you don't practice at all. Like, Marty calls him out. He's like, hey, man, when you work 9 to 5 and you come home, you're tired, and, like, I want to go drink with my buddies. I have to do that too. I have to, like, basically, like, listen. I don't spend time with you at all. I work, spend time with my friends, and don't do the dream that I said I was going to do. And Marty's just like, I understand. He's constantly way too understanding. All right, so present-day Marty sits in the same chair in a busy locker room of wrestlers. He gets up and approaches a small curtain. He pushes through the curtain. We see a ring surrounded by roughly 20 people, mostly kids, are there as one chants, go Marty. So he has like one like diehard wrestling fan. The ring is in terrible shape as Marty enters. Fred, a large man dressed in green. He's like an older wrestler, community wrestler. A mix of boos and claps echo in the room, like very sad. It's like, Marty looks at the clock. Fred locks up with him. Fred almost seems kind of like father figurely kind of to him. Like he sees something's wrong with him. He's like, what time do you need to be out of here? And Marty's like, let's just get the big moves out of the way and you can pin me. He's like, okay, no problem. Throws Marty against the ropes, and one of the ropes breaks, creating Marty to fall out the ring because the ring's just garbage. He goes back in, and Fred body slams him, and a board in the ring breaks. Fred goes up in the corner, elbows him, and gets the pin. Marty's fan, you'll get him next time. Fred leaves the ring as a few people start pairing the ring. Another kind of little plant there is that, like, the ring is completely in shambles, but everyone's still having a good time. And it seems like a lot of the people there are just, I don't want to see it like, because Marty is obviously going to elevate his life, that their lives aren't elevated at all. So Marty is in the back changing into uniform. Fred's kids and wife approach him in celebration. So Fred is already like, he already hit his arc, in his life. He's like, yeah, man, I'm a retired, police.
Firefighter.
Yeah, I'm a retired firefighter.
Yeah.
I'm just doing this for fun. I'm just looking out for you. Like, so
it's good for the kids.
Yeah, he just likes to do it. So I wanted to make sure that Fred had that full arc already. Marty is outside the building, hustling to his car with his bag. Fred catches up. Hey, you forgot your chair. Showing that Fred does care about this kid. He hands Marty the chair. Thanks, Fred. Fred smiles. You owe me a better match next time, okay? So in that scene Marty is now a small community wrestler. Fred is his friend who has a family and wrestles with him. So he's kind of just like this, I would say like a guardian angel type.
Yep.
He is what we call also a
Ben Kenobi.
Yeah.
The guide.
Yep. Yeah. He comes in later, obviously, most of these characters, all of these characters will, as kind of what we call a booster rocket as well.
The wise old sage.
Yeah,
You call it whatever
exactly.
you want.
Exactly. So the next scene is Marty pulls up to the stadium and he enters through the back. Security guard Ron, which is Ron, what's his last name?
Funches.
Ron Funches.
Yes.
He has like the big smile
Yeah,
and
be,
it's
like,
like the
soft
happiest
voice.
person.
Hey,
Yeah.
he's just like, yeah. Every time I hear him talk, I just.
So he's
smile.
looking over
Yeah.
at the crowd as they all take their seats. The big screen in the middle plays commercials. This is important because we see Dustin, who was Overlord, that was Will Ferrell's, who was Chet Fury. His old partner is now GWF, Galactic Wrestling Federation CEO, Dustin Jackson. He is seen on TV with an infomercial of his how-to books ringside. The beginning of the movie, we really foresee their credits rolling as you see Chet Fury and Overlord fighting, and Overlord never gets tagged in. He's always asking for it, but he's always doing something silly ringside and like learning a new task and doing these things. So you see this in the infomercial.
He's like got a George Foreman grill line or something.
He has a ton of things. No, he has a how-to dummies book.
Okay.
So it's called
yeah.
how to. It's called Ringside, and it's how to do different things: how to cook, how to sew, how to like.
Yeah.
So he sells these books. The infomercial briefly describes his retirement and Shark Tank investors behind the books. The infomercial ends and the ad for the next fight plays. Like they're about to watch. It's like 2 minutes until you see John Cena with, it's not verse, it's with a mystery wrestler from the past. So they're trying to bring these ratings up, obviously, by having like some excitement of who are they bringing back. Marty joins Ron wearing the same uniform. He is also a security guard. And Ron's just like, hey, Marty, I love wrestling nights. You people are so interesting. And Marty looks down by the ring. This isn't set in stone, but the gist of it is he wants to go down backstage to see the other wrestlers. And Ron's like, absolutely, man. You got to get your in. You know, you got to network. Go do it. So he peeks backstage where the wrestling stars are getting ready. And John Cena always has 2 belts around his shoulders, and he's always readied and oiled up to wrestle. And he's walking around yelling at people but apologizing immediately after. He's PC John Cena.
Okay.
So he's looking for someone to help him when he walks out. He's just like, hey, listen, you idiot. Sorry for calling you an idiot. I need your help. And so everyone doesn't want to help him. And he spots Marty peeking. He's like, I need you. Very simple task, okay? Sorry I'm yelling. And he's like...
very apologetic.
Yeah,
John
very
Cena,
apologetic. And he's like...
Okay.
And he doesn't want to, like, offend him. He's like, can you speak? And he's like, yeah. He's like, okay, I'm just asking. Don't want to get in trouble. Can you walk? He's like, yeah, I can walk. So he's like, you got to fill in. My ringside lackey is shitting his pants. He's like, it's a tag team match with some old guys. Means nothing. This is his big chance. And he's like, all you have to do is trip one of the opponents when I give you the signal. He's like, that's it. So Marty and Cena get called into the ring. I'm thinking we can cut to like a TV camera that's just like John Cena with the 2 belts, legendary with security guard guy. Looks clueless, holding a chair, an old chair. His eyes are just like... So for that scene, it's Marty arrives at the stadium wearing security guard uniform. We introduce the friend Ron, who's very supportive. And then he's wrapped into a lackey job for John Cena and will be going out with him to the ring. So this is a moment of like, we're getting into this new world. Like, oh shit, the irony of him wanting to be this wrestler. He's a security guard at a stadium that's having WrestleMania tonight. And he's just like wrapped into this like weird role. Next scene is Chet Fury's called into the ring, and Marty becomes enamored because it's a mystery wrestler. Once you hear the man's man song, he's like, oh, shit.
Yeah, zoom in on his face. Like.
So we have the same intro. When we see the intro of Will Ferrell when he's de-aged, the first thing we see is a light hitting his fucking abs, and it's oily. And this one, we hear the song, we see the light hits his belly, and it's just hairy
just
and out of shape. And there's like clumps of oil, like not oiled even well.
Yeah.
And he comes out just looking disheveled.
Glorious.
And glorious, of course. So when he gets in the ring and the match is about to start and Cena's like giving Marty the signal like, hey, do this thing, do the thing. He misses his cue and Cena leans over the ropes to get Marty's attention and he's pissed. While he's trying to get his attention, one of the opponents pulls Cena back and throws him to the ground. Cena slams his head and is knocked out cold in the middle of the ring with his belts around his shoulder for the rest of the match.
He's just out.
He's just out,
like board,
totally
straight
out.
Yeah, like stiff.
The match has started, and now Chet must face off against the two opponents by himself. Chet is taking a beating. One of the opponents gets him up against the ropes and wraps them around his neck, choking him out. Chet is starting to pass out as he looks towards Marty for help. Hey, help. Use the chair. Marty picks up his chair and he's like, huh? And he goes like this, and the opponent grabs it and hits Chet with it. And he's like, you're making it so much worse. And Chet maneuvers his way out of the second chair hit. Cena's still lying motionless in the ring. I just want to keep saying that.
Yeah.
Chet is about to get pinned by both opponents.
Get up and help me, John Cena.
Stop
He's
lying
just
there.
staring at him, like,
His eyes are wide open, John Cena.
He's just like, help me.
Then Dustin is, we see Dustin laughing in his office above the ring. Like, fuck you, I hated you. We need to see a little bit more. Me explaining it makes sense, but in the script that Dustin doesn't like Chet Fury.
Yeah.
We definitely need to solidify that a little better.
He never tagged him in.
He never tagged him in. So
yeah, we got to.
well, we were putting funny things in the infomercial where it's just like it's an infomercial, but for some reason they're ragging on Dustin. I don't know why.
Yeah. Okay.
But they're just like, oh yeah, you're the guy that was never tagged in. Like,
you had all that time to learn how to do stuff on the side of the ring.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because you're a terrible wrestler. So you hear 1, 2, and Marty pushes them off and drop kicks both of them, and they both pin to win. There's probably a little bit more fighting than that, but it's not a very lengthy fight. The crowd, we don't know about this yet because it was kind of confusing why they weren't like more yelling for
Chet instead,
but they start, chanting security guard as he's still in uniform, and he's giving a microphone like, what's your name? And he's like, it could even flash back to her on the chair with him like, you're my golden boy. And he's like, yeah, this big moment of swelling. He's like, golden boy. And they're like, huh? Golden boy. And they're like,
golden shower.
And one guy's like, security guard kind of was cooler. And then one person's just like, yeah, golden boy. And they're like, woo.
Golden boy.
Golden boy. So he leaves, goes back to the locker room. He's a little beat up, and this is where the B story comes in, which is the love interest. Physical therapist Jessica comes over to help him with some of his injuries, like putting a cold compress on something, or while John Cena is getting pushed out, saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
I'm like inches from getting canceled, man.
Yeah,
I can't say anything around anyone.
I shouldn't even said inches. That can imply something. Okay, so that whole scene is Chet Fury is fighting tag team with Cena. Cena is knocked out. Marty helps Fury win the match, and people love it. So the next scene is the villain, and we see him entering the Shark Tank with the music. This is Dustin. He's like, turn the cameras off. Don't he? He's like so mad. Like, I hate when you guys do this. I'm not here for Shark Tank. And he
It's like Zoolander, like the beginning of Zoolander.
That's
kind
exactly
of?
it.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Shark Tank people are like, that was amazing. The ratings are going up because they are the board, we learn, of
Galactic Wrestling Federation.
not only the ringside books, but they went in to take over when the ratings were low, and made Dustin the CEO. So they're like, hey, anything goes. But they love poking him, obviously, because they're like, you're just gonna do whatever we say, and obviously him being bullied like that is making him even more angry. So they see the ratings have gone up, the Shark Tank people, because of the match, and orders Dustin to have Chet and Marty team up to compete for the tag team championship. So they're like, we need to have a whole storyline with these guys. Like, they need to just be fighting everywhere, and at the end, we need to have them win that big tag team championship at WrestleMania. And Dustin's just like, oh yeah, WrestleMania? And they're like, yeah, WrestleMania. He's like, sure, we'll have these idiots win. He reluctantly agrees, getting mad as he leaves when the cameramen are still filming him. when he leaves the board meeting, we meet his posse. This is very dodgeball-y, where he has laser, taser, blazer.
Yeah.
When he leaves the board meeting, his posse is waiting outside. 2 of them are the tag team from the last match we just saw, because he was actually trying to like hurt John Cena. It made sense. They were just going off story thread just to like, hey, just finish Chet Fury and this John Cena guy. We need more of these wrestlers out of here.
If John Cena's gone, the GWF is going down.
Yeah. Let's just get them all out of here.
They're trying to kill me here, man. I swear to God.
So Dustin tells David, who's David Arquette, who's the lead goon, that he needs to keep an eye. He's like, you need to keep an eye on this golden security loser while I figure out what to do. And one of his posse's like, we didn't change this one, Kyle.
Oh, shit. Sorry.
So we need to keep an eye on this golden security loser while we figure out what we need to do. And one of his posse's like, it's Golden Boy. And he's like, I'm sorry. You said golden security guard. It's Golden Boy. They all chanted it. They love him. They really do. And he's like, and he walks over to him, and he just grabs his throat and choke slams him onto the pavement. And he just lays there squirming on the pavement. The rest of the posse picks him up and throws him in the back as he like gets himself together. He dusts himself off and composes himself. Gets into the SUV. And then there's one, like, I'm thinking actually Jane Lynch. We're pulling another Jane Lynch, but she's an old wrestler.
Jane Lynch,
She's an also plant here, but she's always taking things too far. So her name's Tanya. I think she might be Russian, too.
Tanya.
Who's overly serious all the time. She sits in the back, and she's like, no need for you to hurt your own people. That's why you have me. And David looks at Dustin, and he shakes his head like they're like this. We don't like this lady talking.
Yeah.
And she's like, I see you shake your head. It'll be hard to shake when I remove it. And Dustin calms her down. He's like, no talking about decapitation anymore. We need a strategy to get rid of wrestling for good. You give me word, I kill.
Kill John Cena. This became a totally different type of movie. All right.
Kill John Cena would probably sell better.
The
Dustin,
title is great.
Yeah. Dustin, so that scene is Dustin meets the GWF board who love the last match and want to see more of Fury and Marty. So he is forced to put Fury and Marty in every match and to win the end. He doesn't like Fury at all. Obviously, he doesn't know Marty, but he's like, ratings will get on the rise, and I hate this. So he leaves pissed and tells the goons they need to end wrestling. So we kind of see us ticking like a time clock here, too.
Yeah.
Like, WrestleMania is going to be it. This is going to be like the big showdown between good and evil. Next scene, Marty shows up at the gym to start training. Chet tells Marty that he's not a real wrestler and he's not training with him, and he won't tag him in anyway. He's kind of like on his own mission. And he better not get in his way. So definitely need a little bit more of a beefy scene here in the gym. But Marty sees Jessica again, who he's obviously like enamored with, and she sees him helping John Cena with his injuries. And he asks her out on a date, and John Cena's PC again, like, hey man, if you want to ask her, just make sure you ask her appropriately. You know, I don't want to say anything wrong here. I'm sorry. And Jessica tells him where to meet her, and their first date. So Fury has no time for Marty is that scene, and Marty asks Jessica on a date. Those are the two main things we need to get from that scene.
And I think you can definitely beef that up with just the bare fact that this has been Marty's hero for his whole life. And you know what it feels like when you meet somebody that you're like, oh, you're not what I thought you were going to be, because you're not as portrayed on TV or whatever. So I think that's kind of the point.
So yeah, I think we want to have like him like open his training bag, and there's like a bunch of pictures of Chet Fury with a marker. Like he was gonna ask him, and you're like, oh damn.
Yeah,
like he thought he was gonna have like a good relationship with him, and he kind of just went in his own way.
And Fury's character here is like just an old asshole. Is that kind of okay?
Yeah, and we kind of get that. We think that in the beginning when he throws a person at a child holding a chair. He is on his own path.
Yeah. He's Chet Fury, dude. Like,
yep.
I like it.
So the next scene is where Jessica said to meet is like this weird speakeasy type entrance, and it's Underground Wrestling Association. So it's all of like the John Cena's, really, like people that were getting hurt, that retired early, and they go there and they put on a show. It's mostly closed just to them. It's kind of their own place to hang out.
That's
you
awesome.
know, every week. So Jessica explains where GWF is heading, and it's going to be more of like an MMA type sport with no predetermined winners or storylines. Ratings are down. A lot of wrestlers over the years have been finding new ways to make it. And as she's saying this, wrestlers in the ring are taunting each other. The main one being Peg Leg Steve, which is one that we had from the old. I don't know why I like the name.
Yeah.
So they're having like this thing, like about like just yelling at each other while she's explaining this. It's just the setting of it. They're kind of walking through. It's like it's a ring and a bunch of like bar tops and a bar on the side.
Okay.
I would say there's probably like 25 people in there. It's not too.
So
many.
this is a pretty big set piece then.
Yes, this is a
like
pretty big
a set build that you come back to maybe a few times.
Yeah.
Absolutely
I think
is.
2 or 3 times more.
So the main one being Peg Leg Steve. So she explains that violence is part of wrestling, but like people were going off script anyway, like the Grim Reaper. So this is the first time we hear this name, and the Grim Reaper was just hurting wrestlers. As more popular wrestlers were hurt, the ratings were tanking. The Reaper has only been defeated once by Jessica's father. The lights go out and a fight starts. Jessica gets 2 beers for them, and the show begins. Montage. We have a lot of montages here. Let me know when this is too much. But montage of different wrestlers, new and old. Warrior Bros walk up. Marty is starstruck. He begins to ramble about being at the 1992 WrestleMania fight where Chet broke his neck. And then Jessica's like, hey, I'm going to head out. Like, you're nerding out here. That's great. I'll see you tomorrow. And he stays and bonds with the old fighters. Now it's kind of just a cut to less people at the bar. It's kind of just like him and a couple other people. And sorry, the Warrior Bros kind of explained to him that Dustin was never tagged in because he was bad for wrestling. He was always trying to go off script. He was like
dangerous. Right?
He was dangerous. So like they put him with Chet and said like don't ever tag him in.
Okay.
Like this guy is insane. He also like we just build up a bad backstory with him here. Like the rich kid who like got his way into wrestling. He never trained. He's
the real deal heel.
Yeah, he's the real deal heel. That's actually perfect. Don't call me that.
Yeah. Oh, you never heard of a real deal heel?
So Chet shows up for an impromptu fight with Peg Leg Steve. Obviously doesn't know Marty's there. But he's there and he starts like messing with Peg Leg Steve. He's like, "Oh, you should fight Marty." And he's like, "Oh shit." The Golden Boy. So there's not many people in there, but he gets called in. And Chet Fury doesn't want anything to do with this, but Marty starts like calling out like obscure move sets and references that impresses Chet, like 1988 Andre the Giant. Like
yeah.
the end of that match, he's like, okay, yeah, we can pull that off. And like they start doing this, and he's like impressed by him. So we cut to them at the bar.
They come together in the dance of wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, nice.
Not the first time it came together, the dance of wrestling. I liked your moves, kid.
This is not the first time I came with another man. That's terrible. That's not even funny.
No, it's not, but that's okay. We'll forget about it.
Yeah.
Marty opens up about how his dad was shitty and left him the match that ended his career. He talks about how he watches all the old tapes of him wrestling still. And then Chet, I think, just reveals here that the injury was fake. And he left wrestling because he had a daughter and was starting a family. And Marty winds up leaving just like saying, "Listen, I know you won't tag me in or anything, but it's still an honor that I get to be out there with you, man." And Chet's like, he leaves and he's like, "Fuck." So,
all right.
So that whole scene is Jessica and Marty's first date. Introduce underground wrestling. Jessica knows a lot about wrestling as her father's a wrestler. Jessica leaves while Marty stays to bask in the history and to enjoy the old stories of I just said history, and then I explained what history was. So that was pretty cool. Fury Shields, you know what history is? We can explain that. It's old stories.
Let me, sort of like. All right.
Fury shows up, and Marty earns his respect in the ring.
Beautiful. I think we should break. So that's the end of Act 1. sort of? Is that how you have it so far?
Yeah.
So, that whole structure would have encompassed sort of the setup. It's really sort of the setup of the main storylines that are going to play out through this movie. And really, I think good movies are good relationships. So we've got Chet. We've got Golden Boy and Chet. His hero, who he has to now team up with. We've got Golden Boy and this newfound relationship, and we've got Chet Fury and his old partner, who is now his rival, who is trying to take down, and that would be like really the bigger story of the whole movie, who's trying to take down wrestling.
Yep.
That's a really great setup. I think we break it there, and then in the next episode we'll jump into Act 2, and keep this story moving forward.
Perfect.
Works.